Bonjour tout le monde, c'est moi Charlotte et aujourd'hui nous allons étudier les paroles de la chanson qui s'appelle La plus belle pour aller danser, qui a été chantée par Sylvie Vartan dans les années 60, 1964 je crois. Donc voilà, c'est une chanson que j'adore en fait. Donc on y va, oui, on commence. So, everyone, this video is mainly for those people who are members of my French club. It's a monthly French club where I do a tutorial based on one element of the French language, or in this instance, I'm looking at the lyrics of a lovely song, La plus belle pour aller danser. That means the most beautiful to go dancing. So the most beautiful one to go out dancing. Right, so let me think. So here what we've got, when you receive this document, those members of my club, you'll receive a digital document like this in your email later today, along with a link to this video. And then there's some exercises and some additional links that you can click to do some further study. So because we're at sort of more or less the start of the year, we're going to look at a little bit the future tense. There's a couple of little future tense conjugations of the verb être, to be, which I think are useful. So if you're not quite familiar with how to say I will be or it will be, or he, she will be, if you like, then this will hopefully help you. But there's also lots of other useful things, like other examples of future tenses. You've got the agreement of past participles with a preceding direct object, so we'll look at that. We've got a subjunctive down here. That's something that we don't really use much in English. Lots of useful, slightly intermediate or advanced vocab. And then we've got some nice little bits which are really useful constructions to help you sort of not cheat your way through, but remember how to form useful sentences. So for example, using a modal verb like je peux or je veux, I would like or I want. Je peux, I can or may I, followed by an infinitive. So je peux faire quelque chose, I can do something, I'm able to do something. Je veux manger, I want to eat. Je veux chanter, je veux danser, for example, I want to dance. When you're familiar with those structures and you become familiar with the verbs that can be followed by infinitives, like the verb aller or savoir, or modal verbs pouvoir, vouloir, devoir, and you know them in various conjugations, in various tenses, and in the negative with ne un pas, you can say a lot of things in French, so they're always useful to look at. So, but other than that, we're going to be looking at just the fact that it's a French song. They're great ways, like listening to French music, reading the lyrics, or just listening and training your ear is a great way to improve your vocabulary, and also to practice your listening skills and your pronunciation. And then when you read the lyrics and you study the text and the meaning, you gain a deeper sense of the structure of the French language, rhyme patterns or words that rhyme. It's a really useful tool, and of course you become familiar with a new artist or genre or period in French language musical history. So that's great. Really useful thing to do, and I plan to do more of it this year. Okay, that's enough waxing lyrical. So this starts off thus. Ce soir, I'll read the lyrics first, and I'll zoom in a wee bit because I know you probably can't see that. So let's play a little bit round with the zoom, and then I'm going to look at the language, okay? Voilà, ok. Ce soir, je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. Danser. Now, if this were written out on a sheet like this, for example, it would be less writing per line, you know, almost like a poem, the structure of a song. But just for the sake of not having to use too many pages and so that you can see more language on the page here, I've maybe continued the line where on your handout it's on a new line. Okay, so don't worry about that too much. You may find that I sing along with this as well, so I'll put a link to the original song under the video description, and I might try and play like a little bit of it. Ce soir je serai la plus belle pour aller danser, danser, pour mieux évincer toutes celles que tu as aimées, aimées. Ce soir je serai la plus tendre quand tu me diras, diras tous les mots que je veux entendre murmurés par toi, par toi. Now that's the kind of la mélodie. Ce soir, this evening. Je serai, there's your verb être in the future tense, I will be. Je serai, c'est une fille qui chante. It's a girl who's singing, remember. Ce soir, je serai la plus belle. This evening I will be the most beautiful. The most beautiful. La plus belle. La, because it's a girl. The most beautiful girl, basically. And belle as opposed to beau. Le plus beau would be the most handsome man, therefore. La plus belle, so that's a superlative there, or comparison, it's a superlative, the most, plus an adjective. And the adjective is in the feminine, belle, it's in the feminine form, okay? And la is the article used before plus. You could also have la moins belle, the least beautiful if you want. So like the opposite of plus, moins, M-O-I-N-S. And if it was the most handsome, then la would become le, and belle would become beau. In fact, I'll just show you that because, so, si c'était un mec, un homme qui chantait, cette phrase sera en fait je serai le plus beau. Ce soir je serai le plus beau. So le plus beau instead of la plus belle. Belle and beau are like the feminine and masculine versions of the same adjective. Okay, there's other ones where you might see an S at the end, for example, or an X at the end of beau. They're just the plural forms, okay, nothing to worry about. So this evening, je serai. Je serai. If nothing else, remember je serai. The bits that are underlined with red are the bits that are the future tense. Je serai. Je serai. Okay? Je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. Pour here means the most beautiful person to go dancing, if you like. The most beautiful one who is going dancing, or for going out dancing, if you like. Pour aller danser tells you the purpose for which this person is going out. Pour aller danser. Aller danser means to go dancing. Just like in English, we have the verb to go, aller, and then the infinitive verb danser. Okay? So when you have pour, the preposition pour, followed by a verb, for example, c'est pour parler avec Michel. Est-ce qu'il est là, Michel? Oui, c'est pour parler avec lui. It's to speak with him. I want to speak with him. It's for the purpose of speaking with him. That's what it's about. So, pour, followed by an infinitive verb, often tells you the purpose of whatever's happening. Okay, so here I've got infinitive verbs underlined in blue. So we have aller. That means they're written in their whole form, often with ER at the end. But they might also have an RE. There's one example of those in here, and the other one that they might have at the end is an IR, okay, because we have verbs like finir, IR at the end, aller, IR, connaître, AE. They're the three main verb types, okay, and the infinitive for ones. So here we've got another infinitive verb, évincer, évincer, évincer. So first off, this has got this little accent aigu, a little, what do we call that? An acute accent? An acute accent there that goes up to the right, and that means you have to pronounce the E, almost like A in English, okay, almost. Évincer. So we don't pronounce it évincer. E is normally how you pronounce an E. It's the name of the letter E. A, B, C, D, E. When you say je or ce soir, je serai le, for example, you normally pronounce an E when it's on its own. So if it's got that accent, it's an E. Attention. Pour mieux évincer toute celle que tu as aimée. So this E accent aigu often appears at the end of past participles, loved, aimé, or adjectives. Oh, je suis fatigué, fatigué. J'ai mangé quelque chose. Manger ends with an E accent aigu, comme ça. So it's also a marker of verbs in their past participle form, or adjectives that are formed from verbs, like I can't think of any. Aimer, there's an example actually of someone who is loved, but that's also a past participle, I think. Aimer. So you have loved. Sometimes past participles and adjectives look the same, but their function, like how they perform, if you like, how they work in a sentence, tells you exactly what grammatical sort of part of speech they are, what their function is. So this evening I will be the most beautiful one going dancing. Pour mieux évincer. So what does that actually mean? Pour mieux évincer toute celle que tu as aimée. It means basically to show up. Évincer can mean to topple. What are the other ways that you can translate it? To oust, to better, if you like, to, in order to better oust or to defeat, if you like, all of those, toutes celles, all of those, celles, that means all of those girls, all the women, que tu as aimé, all the women that you've loved. Aimer is just repeated there because it helps to form the rhythm of the song. It's a bit like danser, danser, aimer, aimer. Ce soir je serai la plus tendre quand tu me diras. I think I've started singing it a little bit low. Ce soir je serai la plus tendre quand tu me diras. Diras. That's better. This evening, so we've got a repetition. Je serai la plus tendre. So instead of the most beautiful, the most affectionate or loving or tender, gentle, tendre. So it can mean any of those. Just like in English, tender can have all of those different kind of meanings. It could, in English, it can even mean like a tender steak, you know, soft and sort of supple, if you like. But here it's more like affectionate. This evening I will be the most affectionate and loving when you will say to me. This is from the verb dire, to say, or to tell. When you tell me, if you like. So, tu me diras. Me is an object pronoun there. And it comes between the tu and diras. Tu diras, you will say. Tu me diras, you will say to me. So, I guess that's an indirect object pronoun. Excuse me. Tous les mots que je veux entendre murmurés par toi. Par toi. Okay, this evening I will be the most tender, I'll be the most affectionate when you will say to me. That's in the future tense there. In English we would tend to just use the present tense. when you say to me rather than when you will say to me. But in French, you have two futures together. Okay, talking about something that you expect to happen in the future. Not always the case, but often, okay? So don't worry if you see two future tenses and it feels weird if you're like an English native speaker. When you will say to me all the words, tous les mots. Here we had toutes celles. That's the feminine, all of those. Tous les mots, all the words. So we've got two different versions of writing all, and they agree with whatever it is you're saying, all of what. Les mots, that's the masculine plural. So T-O-U-S is the masculine plural. Tout. Tous les garçons. Toutes les filles, for example. Tout, masculine plural. Toutes, feminine plural. All of the words. That you, that I, que je veux entendre. Que je veux entendre. Ah, attention là. C'est quoi ça? C'est quelle sorte de verbe ça? Veux. Je veux. Tu veux, il, elle, on veut. Nous voulons, vous voulez. Ils, elles veulent. Ça c'est le verbe vouloir. Vouloir. That's to want. Okay, so that is a modal verb. And when it's conjugated like it is here, it's in the je form, in the present tense. Je veux, I want. You can follow it with an infinitive verb. Woohoo! This is an RE verb. It ends with RE. Entendre. That means to hear. So it's not écouter. Écouter is like the active to listen. Listen. Make an effort to hear what I'm saying. Entendre is to have, it's kind of more passive. So let's listen again. This evening I will be the most affectionate and tender when you say to me all the words that I want to hear, que je veux entendre, murmurés par toi, all the words I want to hear whispered or gently spoken by you, par toi. Two things I want to mention there. So we've got a liaison, écoute, écouter. Je veux entendre. Je veux entendre. I want to hear. Je veux entendre. So that X there becomes like a Z sound because it's followed by a verb that begins with an E. So you see that a lot, not always with an X, but sometimes with an S as well, like je vais en ville. Je vais en ville. Je suis anglaise. Okay? The S at the end of the first verb, followed by the vowel of the verb or the adjective or whatever that follows. All the words that I want to hear murmured or whispered, softly said, murmurer. That's a nice verb, isn't it? So that can mean to whisper, but you've also got another verb which is chuchoter, which means to whisper. So murmurer is like to speak softly. It can sometimes mean to like grumble as well, so it depends on the context. But this is all quite sensual, so let's go for like softly speak. Par toi, par toi. Now why? Why is that toi and not tu? Okay, here we've got the preposition par, which means like by. Words spoken softly by you. This evening I will be so tender, the most tender, when you say to me all the words that I want to hear softly spoken by you. By you. So, if you were saying this is a book by, or this is a song by Sylvie Vartan, c'est une, or sung by Sylvie Vartan, c'est une chanson chantée par Sylvie Vartan. Par can also kind of place things in space. Par ici ou par là, par exemple. Par exemple, for example. Ooh, so par can also mean for in some examples. So par exemple, by example. It can translate as by, even in that one. Par is a preposition, and when you have a preposition followed by like a pronoun basically, by you, by me, a book by him, a song sung by her, a book written by us, then instead of using je, tu, il, elle, etc., some of those little pronouns, which are subject pronouns come before a verb. Je serai, I will be. Il sera, he will be. We will be, nous serons. But when you're saying a book by me, so in English we've got I will do something, but it's a book by me. So I and me are two different things. One is like a stressed pronoun or an emphatic pronoun, depending on where you find your definition. So think of toi as being, it's the tu form, tu, informal, it's the tu version of moi. So if you know the word moi, which means me, then, and you remember that c'est un livre par moi, it's a book by me. By me. You wouldn't say it's a book par je, by I. No, like in English that doesn't really sound right. So toi is the tu form of moi. In English the complication is that you start a sentence with you. You are beautiful, for example. You are French. But you also use the emphatic pronoun you. It's a book written by you. Whose house is, no, that's a different one. Who answered the door? You. Who's watching this? You. So the word you at the beginning of a sentence in English and the emphatic pronoun you, they look and sound the same in English. That's why this is a bit difficult to get your head around. But when you use a preposition, for example, pour, or avec, or par, okay, then you need to use most often these emphatic pronouns. So let me just give you a few examples. If I say I'm going with you in French, then I would use the preposition avec, which means with. I don't say avec tu. No. I would say, for example, tu viens avec moi. You are coming with me. But I don't say je vais avec tu. No. Je vais avec toi. I'm going with you. So tu is not something you want to see after a preposition. That's not always the case, but if it's emphatic, with who are you going with? With you. Or who am I going with? With him. With her. Okay? So toi is like an emphatic pronoun. You could also say it's a book by, or by you. Par toi. What was the other one I said? Ah, oui. If you've bought something for someone, I bought these for you. Pour toi. Now, confusingly, if you're saying for you guys, then you would say pour vous. Je vais avec vous. C'est un livre par vous. So there's inconsistencies, you know, that might lead to confusion, but if you would say avec moi, par moi, pour moi, c'est pour moi? Oui, c'est pour toi. Je vais avec toi. C'est un livre par toi. And that makes sense. Anyway, look them up. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, look up emphatic or stressed pronouns. Just be aware that they exist. In songs, that's a great example of when you might come across something you wouldn't have otherwise been able to identify, you know? Okay, so she's saying, I'm going to be the most beautiful one and I'm going to show up. Or show up, there you go. Évincer, to show up, topple. All the girls that you've ever loved, I'm going to look better than them. I will be the most affectionate, that when you say to me all the words I want to hear say, oh, I'll be the most affectionate when you say all the words I want to hear you say softly to me. Blah, blah, blah. Je fonde l'espoir. Now it gets a little bit fluffy here. Je fonde l'espoir que la robe is a dress, que j'ai voulu et que j'ai cousu point par point. sera chiffonné les cheveux que j'ai coiffés, décoiffés par tes mains. Okay, what's she talking about? I base, fonder is to base or found something. I'm basing the hope, l'espoir, that's hope. Que, the hope that, la robe, robe, je fonde l'espoir que la robe. So what you've got there is an E that's kind of overpronounced and another E that's overpronounced. That's kind of something that happens sometimes in songs, especially Edith Piaf, La vie en rose. It's just something that happens in songs sometimes. I'm basing the hope that the dress that I wanted, la robe que j'ai voulu, the dress that I wanted. Now here, you can't see it very well. Let's come over here if I can, try and zoom in. La robe que j'ai voulu. Now you've got this dress that I wanted. You've got a direct object. The dress is the direct object. It's something that you have wanted. If this said I wanted the dress, it would be j'ai voulu la robe. J'ai voulu la robe. But here we've got the dress that I wanted. So the object comes before the verb. Okay? Now, because this bit here is in the past tense, j'ai voulu, there's an E on the end of the past participle. Instead of just being your usual vouloir, in the past tense becomes voulu with a U, there's an extra E because that past participle is agreeing with la robe. So if it was, for example, let's think what examples I always give in classes. Okay, normally it's with something like la pomme. J'ai mangé la pomme. J'ai mangé la pomme. Let's do it like this. J'ai mangé la pomme. Okay, so what does that say? I ate, or I have eaten the apple. Pomme. It's kind of squeezed in there. But if you said the apple that I have eaten, or the apple which I ate, this would happen. You'd put the apple part at the beginning of the sentence rather than after the verb. La pomme que, the apple that, que j'ai mangé. Now let me just show you something. You might think it's written like that. The apple that I have eaten. But if we want to be correct, because we've put this object before the, like it precedes the verb, which, what's the word? I can't remember what the word is. This refers to that basically. We add an extra E. La pomme que j'ai mangée. Manger agrees with the gender and the number actually of the object which directly precedes it. So you can avoid having to do that in written French if you put the verb phrase first and then the object after. But as soon as you've got something like the dress that I wanted, then here in the written form you'd add an extra E. If it was les robes que j'ai voulu, the dresses that I wanted, then instead of a UE we'd have UES. You'd add ES. Okay? If it was just I'm trying to think. Les t-shirts que j'ai voulu. If it was the t-shirts that I wanted, then you would take off the E, just put an S. US. So it just and if it's just un t-shirt, le t-shirt que j'ai voulu, you just leave the U at the end of the past participle. That doesn't really matter too much in spoken French unless the past participle changes pronunciation. I can't think of any at the moment, but there are some past participles which, when you add an E after, say, a T, change the sound from a silent T to a T. So it's not always the case that you can avoid doing that in French, but it's definitely more noticeable, or it's definitely noticeable in the written form, okay, like that. Anyway, let's have a look at another example of the same thing. Je fonde l'espoir que la robe que j'ai voulu et que j'ai cousu point par point. I'm basing the hope that the dress that I wanted and which I sewed, which I have sewn, if you like, stitch by stitch, will be creased. It's quite a long and flowery little sentence. Will be creased or crumpled, and the hair that I have styled, les cheveux que j'ai coiffé, so that's in the plural because les cheveux que j'ai coiffé is a preceding direct object. So there's an S at the end of coiffer, that means to style. Okay. Décoiffer par tes mains. Ooh, what does this mean? So décoiffer is the opposite of to style. It's to mess up someone's hair, or to unstyle, or make a mess of it, basically. So the little DE, décoiffer, I believe there should be décoiffer. Décoiffer. Oui. So here is an example of where there should be an accent aigu in order to make that D sound. Décoiffer. Okay, so what does all of that mean? Basically it's saying, I hope that the dress that I wanted and which I've sewn will end up being crumpled by your hands. She wants her beau, her fella, to hold her, basically, and she hopes that the hair that she's styled will be not tousled, will become unstyled because his hands will be in her hair. So it's actually, even though it's very long-winded, it's a very, very nice, sensuous way of describing a hope and a desire that she has. She wants to get close and personal and dance with this person that she obviously loves. So, je fonde l'espoir que la robe que j'ai voulu et que j'ai cousu point par point, point par point. Coudre means to sew. Cousu is the past participle, the dress that I have sewn. Point par point, stitch by stitch. And there we have that little par again. Just like up here, I want to hear the words spoken by you, softly spoken by you, stitch by stitch, point par point. Sera. Oh, I've used a red pen here. That's meant to be the that was meant to be my way of showing you the future tense. Sera, like the song que sera, sera, although that's Spanish, but it's a similar kind of thing. To be, it will be. So here we have, I'm hoping that the dress I sewed, stitch by stitch, will be crumpled or will be creased. Will be creased. So that is a combined future tense. We have the verb chiffonner, to crumple or crease. Un chiffon is like a tissue or piece of fabric. Un chiffon. Chiffonner is to crumple or crease something. So it's to do with fabric. It will be. So we have être in the third person singular, il, elle, or on form, because it's talking about la robe, the robe that the dress that she sewed, will be. And then we've got a past participle. It will be creased. So this is something you might find. Once you get the verb avoir and the verb être down in the future tense, then you'll be able to use it with a past participle following it. It will be done. I will be seen. je serai, oh gosh, let's have a look. Je serai aimé. I will be loved. I'm just trying to think of some examples that actually work. Ah, les mots, tous les mots seront murmurés par toi. All the words, tous les mots que je veux entendre, all the words that I want to hear, seront, they will be, murmurés par toi. They will be murmured by you. So this combined tense is a really, really useful one. In order to use that tense and to understand it, you need to be familiar with avoir and être, the auxiliary verbs, and past participles, okay, which often have an E accent aigu at the end, that E sound, if they're an ER verb. Okay, it's getting quite long, isn't it, this video? Je fonde l'espoir que la robe que j'ai voulue et que j'ai cousue point par point sera chiffonnée, les cheveux que j'ai coiffés, décoiffés par tes mains. That's nice, I like that one. Okay, we've got another page and then we're done. Quand la nuit referme ses ailes, je souvent revais. Ooh, pardon. When night would close or used to close its wings. Poetic, isn't it? When la nuit, ah, this is a useful one. Le jour, bonjour, is bonjour because bon is masculine and jour is masculine. B-E-N, jour. When you say good night, you say bonne nuit. So there's a difference with the writing. Bonjour, bonne nuit. And I'm going to show you why that is. It's a useful one to remember. Bonjour, because it's le jour, and bonne, oh, you can't see my head there. Voilà. Voici la tête. Bonne nuit. Okay, so something else to mention here. So, when you say bonjour, it's le jour, good day. So the word bon, for good, is the masculine version, bon, in front of the masculine noun jour. Bonne nuit looks different and it sounds different. Bon, bonne. Bon, bonne. Pronounce the N here, if you like, and even the E a little bit. Nuit. And that's because the word nuit is a feminine noun, but the word jour is a masculine noun. So here we have the word la nuit. Quand la nuit referme ses ailes. When night would close its wings, refermer, close again. Let's think if there's a different way of refermer. Close up again. Close. Heel. Close up. There you go. Close up. There you go. Close up. So when night closes its, or folds its wings up, if you're going to go with the wings metaphor. Ses ailes. Elle is wings. J'ai souvent rêvé, rêvé. I have often dreamed, often dreamed. So that means, this is in the imperfect tense. So that could mean when night used to close its wings. Basically that means when night closes in. Okay, that's another way of saying it. When it gets to the night time, she's often dreamed. We've got this word of frequency here, souvent. Okay, so it's like a bit like jamais, souvent, often, never, that kind of thing. And here it's sort of splicing the past tense. Okay, so here we've got the passé composé. J'ai rêvé, I have dreamed. J'ai souvent rêvé, I've often dreamed. Que dans la soie, that, in la soie. C'est quoi la soie? Soie sounds a bit like soir. Ce soir je serai la plus belle. At the beginning of the song it says, this evening I will be the most beautiful to go dancing. Ce soir. There's an R at the end of that. But here we've got la soie. Soir, soie. There's a bit of a difference there, but they sound similar. This means in silk. Dans la soie et la dentelle. Dentelle is lace. So, I've often dreamed as night was closing in, if you like, that in silk and lace, one evening I will be the most beautiful one to go dancing. Quand la nuit refermait ses ailes, j'ai su vent rêver, rêver, que dans la soirée la dentelle, un soir je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. So here, she's getting quite defiant. I've often dreamed that one day, wearing lace and silk, I will be the most beautiful one going dancing. Okay, so she's got a plan here that she's dreaming about, sweeping a guy off her feet and blowing all the other past loves out of the water because she just looks so lovely and she's so affectionate. So here we've got a slightly different one. So tu peux me donner le souffle qui manque à ma vie. Oh, missing a little accent grave là. So you can give to me. Tu peux. Here we've got another modal verb. Tu peux. Let's go in a bit. So obviously she's addressing this person in the tu form because it's informal. This is someone she loves. You can, to me, give. Donner, to give. To me, that's the indirect object pronoun that comes before the infinitive verb. So pouvoir is a modal verb. It means to be able to, or you can, and you can follow them with infinitives. But when it's like give to me, give to her, you can give to him, then the to him, to her, to me, to us, those little indirect object pronouns go in front. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, etc. Okay? Le souffle. Le souffle is a breath. The breath. Souffle. Souffle. Sometimes I have to check words, you know, because there could be other translations for them. Blast of air, breath. Yeah, breath, really, breath. Okay. Souffler means to blow or breathe like that. Okay. So, you can give me the breath qui manque à ma vie, which is missing to my life. The verb manquer à. Manquer à means to be missing to someone. Manquer à ma vie. In English we'd say which is missing in my life, or which my life is missing. The breath of air. There's lots of ways of translating this, but the sentiment is that there's something missing from her life. Something vital as a breath. Dans un premier cri de bonheur, in a first cry of happiness. Oh, she really loves him. You can give me what's missing from my life in the first cry of happiness. That's what it literally means. A first cry of happiness, as in basically she hasn't been happy before now. Cri is a cry, de bonheur, of happiness. Si tu veux ce soir cueillir le printemps de mes jours et l'amour en mon cœur. If you want this evening to gather the springtime, le printemps de mes jours, the youth of my days, I guess, the best days of my youth, another way of saying it, et l'amour en mon cœur. So let's do this bit first and then that. If you want this evening to gather the best of my youth and love in my heart, if you want all of that, then you can give me the breath of fresh air. There's another way of saying that. The impetus, which is missing in my life in a first cry of happiness. She's imploring here. You can give me that if you want. Si tu veux, si tu veux. So here you've got si tu veux and tu peux. Pouvoir and vouloir. 2 modal verbs, very useful. Now, lastly, getting to the end now. Lastly, we've got, so I think we're back to sort of the main verse melody. Pour connaître la joie nouvelle. Let's see if I can get down a bit. Allez, arrête. Pour connaître la joie nouvelle du premier baiser, je sais. So, to know, right? So here's pour followed by an infinitive verb. Pour connaître. That means in order to know, basically. Okay. So sometimes the preposition pour in front of a verb can mean in order to do something, for the purpose of. Okay. Pour connaître la joie nouvelle. To know, to get to know a new joy, or the new joy of the first kiss. Premier baiser, un baiser is a kiss. Un baiser, a noun, okay? Because that also has, if it's a verb, it's got another meaning which is quite vulgar. Attention, you can look that up. It's the same spelling, but as a noun, un baiser, okay, un baiser is like a kiss. In order to know new joy, the new joy of the first kiss, je sais, I know, like I know that, I'm sure that, que seuil des amours éternels, that, now this here is on the brink, que au seuil des amours éternels, on the brink of, or at the threshold of, or on the cusp of, it's to do with thresholds and entrances, being on the brink of something. In order to know new joy of the first kiss, I'm sure, I know that, on the brink of eternal love, il faut que je sois la plus belle. Here we've got il faut que, that means it is necessary that. It has to be. Il faut, from the verb falloir, which means to be necessary or to be obligatory. It's quite a strong verb and it doesn't really have a direct translation in English. But il faut que, it is necessary that, is always followed by the subjunctive. So instead of il faut que je suis, it is necessary that I am, we have il faut que je sois, which is the present subjunctive form. Instead of je suis, it's je sois. So that's the present subjunctive of the verb être. And that appears, it's necessary, il faut que tu utilises le subjonctif en fait. Après, par exemple, les phrases il faut que, la phrase, il faut que je sois la plus belle. So, in order to know, to become familiar with, connaître, new joy, the new joy of the first kiss, I know that on the brink of, au seuil de becomes au seuil des, because it's amours éternels, plural. Il faut que je sois la plus belle. I have to be the most beautiful. la plus belle pour aller danser. The most beautiful one to go dancing. La plus belle pour aller danser. Then we've got a bit of an instrumental at the end. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. La plus belle pour aller danser. Right then, there's quite a lot there, isn't there? So I'm going to read through it again. I'm just going to read. I'll try not to sing it. Ok. Ce soir, je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. We'll do some little like actions, les gestes. Pour mieux évincer toutes celles que tu as aimées. Oh, I said I wouldn't sing. Ce soir, je serai la plus tendre que tu me diras. Tous les mots que je veux entendre murmurés par toi. Je fonde l'espoir que la robe que j'ai voulue et que j'ai cousue point par point sera chiffonnée et les cheveux que j'ai coiffés décoiffé par tes mains. Prochaine page. Quand la nuit refermait ses ailes, j'ai souvent rêvé. Oups, je chante pas. Rêvé que dans la soie et la dentelle, un soir je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. Tu peux me donner le souffle qui manque à ma vie dans un premier cri de bonheur. Si tu veux ce soir cueillir le printemps de mes jours et l'amour en mon cœur. Pour connaître la joie nouvelle du premier baiser, je sais qu'au seuil des amours éternels, il faut que je sois la plus belle pour aller danser. La plus belle pour aller danser. That's pretty long, that video. So I guess what I'm going to do here is say merci beaucoup. If you've stayed with me for all of that, then bravo, c'est super. Allez écouter la chanson, écoutez sans regarder les paroles, et puis après ça, on peut réécouter en lisant les paroles en même temps. So, go and listen to that song, and then re-listen to it with the words, okay? And sing along, you know. Also, I've got some little activities here which you can follow if you're members of my club, obviously, and then you can test your understanding of, say, the future tense. If you have any questions, you can leave them under the video here, and I'm just going to see if I can play a little bit on my guitar because I love that song so much. J'adore tellement cette chanson. Il faut que je joue en fait. I must. It's necessary that I must. I have to find les accords. Où sont les accords? Oui. So the chords. Ce soir, je serai la plus belle pour aller danser. Danser. Ouais, je peux aussi scroll. Pardon. Je recommence. Pour mieux évincer toutes celles que tu as aimées. Aimées. Ce soir je serai la plus tendre quand tu me diras. Tu les mots que je veux entendre murmurer par toi. Par toi. Je fonde l'espoir que la robe que j'ai voulue et que j'ai cousu point par point sera chiffonnée et les cheveux que j'ai coiffés décoiffés par tes mains. Quand la nuit referme ses ailes, j'ai souvent rêvé. Que dans la soirée la dentelle, un soir je serai la plus belle. Just wait for the chords to scroll up. La plus belle pour aller danser. La plus belle pour aller danser. La plus belle pour aller danser. Deuxième page. Tu peux me donner le secret qui manque à ma vie dans un premier cri de bonheur. Si tu veux ce soir cueillir le printemps de mes jours et l'amour en mon cœur. Pour connaître la joie nouvelle du premier baiser. Je sais qu'au seuil les amours éternels, il faut que je sois la plus belle La plus belle pour aller danser. La plus belle pour aller danser. La plus belle pour aller danser. Ça suffira, ok, je vous laisse. Merci beaucoup. Allez, écoutez cette chanson, lisez le texte, dites-moi ce que vous en pensez. D'accord? Bonne journée, à la prochaine fois. See you guys, thanks. See you next time.